Chapter 16. One Small Miracle. Tirzah woke from sleep to the sound of birds singing in the acacia trees close to the tent. Lazily, she kept her eyes shut, only to open them instantly as a cry burst onto the morning stillness. Moses is coming down from the mountain. Joshua is with him. Hurry, come. Tirzah was up instantly. Leaving everything behind them, the entire camp ran to meet their leader. Tirzah and her mother were hurrying too when her mother gasped and stood still. Her hand tightened on Tirzah's shoulder. "It's no use," her mother said. "I can't make it." She had already turned pale as she stood bent over with pain. Tirzah felt her own stomach knot and a chill run down her spine. "Jeraheel, you must go down with Ram and Oren along with the others. Tirzah and I will stay here," her mother said, gasping for breath. "Tirzah, run and catch Jerioth quickly." "I will not leave you here alone, my love," Jeraheel said firmly as he placed a strong arm about his wife to support her. "Bring Jerioth and Ram and see that you stay with your Uncle Caleb. Oren, stick with your brother. I will come when I can." When Tirzah came running with Jerioth, her mother was already inside the tent. Gently, Jerioth touched Tirzah's arm. "Tirzah, you must keep the fire going and wait for me outside the tent." She patted Tirzah and quickly went inside, closing the tent flat behind her. Tirzah stirred the fire and tended it till it glowed brightly once again. She sat back on her heels and listened for any sound within the tent. Would the baby be all right? Would her mother suffer much? Her eyes filled with tears. She felt suddenly alone in the big world. When her father returned with an armful of wood for the fire, she looked up at him. "Father, will she die?" In one great stride, her father scooped her up in his arms like a little child, letting her burrow her head into his strong shoulders. "Yahweh is good. Whatever he wills is right. Now, little bird, you must wait patiently as I did when you were born, and before that with Ram, and again with Oren. You and I can do nothing to hurry the coming of a little one. They make their entrance in their own time." He set her down and dried her eyes with the edge of his robe. "There is something I want you to do," he said. "A little while ago I fed the goats, and sorry, I have not seen such a sight as that donkey's hide in a long while. How about grooming her?" He smiled down at Tirzah. "You are the only one she will allow near long enough to do a good job." Tirzah hesitated, looking toward the tent, and then to the far side of the hill where the animals were. Her father shook his head. "Come now, you must not worry. I will be here with your mother. These things take a long time. I promise to call you. Now go." Impulsively, she kissed her father's large sun-browned hand. "You are a good father," she whispered, and without looking up, ran gratefully to tend Sari. All morning she commanded and cajoled, trying to get Sari to cooperate. "You'd better not try that again," she said, rubbing her shoulder where Sari had nipped it. Sari turned her head away as if she had no idea what Tirzah meant. Twice the donkey had sent Tirzah backward, combs and all, while she deliberately rolled herself in dust. At noon, her father brought her food. There was no news yet, but now Tirzah had something to give Sari for a bribe. Within the hour, she finished the job, leaving Sari clean and contentedly munching the last of Tirzah's bread. By the time her father came again, Tirzah had braided the silky hair of 2 goats, decorated the baby goats with broom bush flowers, which they ate, and was thinking of what to do with the ram. One glance at her father's face told her that something was wrong. He looked strained and weary, as if the strength had drained from him. His eyes were far away for a moment before he spoke. "The child is a girl, a small one. Jerioth thinks it will yet be well with her, but it is too soon to tell." "And mother? How is she?" Tirzah asked. "Perhaps the trouble of these last few days, the hardness of the journey. I don't know. She is very tired. It has been a long day. I will call you as soon as Jerioth says you may see her." Tirzah had taken his hand in hers and held it tightly. He looked at her gently. "We must both pray. Yahweh's will is best." Tirzah watched him go, her heart too heavy to pray. At sunset the others returned for one more night in the little camp. Tirzah sat outside the tent, still waiting for her father and Jerioth to call her inside where her mother lay so ill. Ram and Oren sat huddled close to the fire, their faces full of grief. Benj and Reuben had come to hear the news and gone quietly away with their father to their own tent. Old Hannah was with her mother, too, and Mary sat like a small shadow at the edge of the firelight, waiting for her. Slowly, stopping to choose his words carefully, Ram told them what had taken place in the camp below. Moses was so angry that he broke the tablets of stone from Yahweh, crying out that the people were not worthy of them. Then he had Joshua grind up the golden calf and sprinkle the powder on the water. He made the people drink the bitter water to remind them of Yahweh's wrath. Ram paused to brush a fly from his face. "I can barely tell you what happened next. Moses called for those who were for the Lord to stand by him. There were many besides us, mostly Levites." Ram cleared his throat. But it was the Levites with their swords that Moses commanded to go back and forth through the camp, slaying brother, friend, and neighbor who had not come to the Lord's side. Ram stopped. Tirzah lifted her head to look at him with amazement. Then that was the terrible noise we heard today. Father said that it must have something to do with Yahweh's punishment when Moses saw what the people were doing. Scenes of the wounded from the Amalekite raid flashed before her. But this killing in the camp, she could not picture. Ram shook his head as if to clear it. Never, never have I heard or seen anything like it. Tonight there is mourning all over the camp. I can hardly believe what has happened and that we are spared. He looked at Mary. Monetto also is dead. From the shadows where she sat, Mary spoke quietly. Yahweh is very great. He could have punished us all. In Egypt, the priests do not teach about the mercy of the gods, only their terrible anger. Oren nodded in agreement. Right. Anyone could see that Yahweh's cloud still covered the mountain. They should have waited for Moses. He was interrupted by his father's appearance in the doorway of the tent. Every face turned expectantly. Your mother is sleeping peacefully. Thanks be to Yahweh. A sigh of relief escaped from Tirzah's lips, only to leave her heart beating wildly at the unasked question. What of the baby? As if he had heard, her father nodded his head. The child too sleeps, and if Yahweh wills, she shall live. Tomorrow you will see them. Tirzah felt as if a fresh breeze swept over her. Tomorrow she would see her new sister. Her mother was all right. Moses had returned, and life would go on. All would be well. Tirzah, Ram said, breaking into her thoughts, there is something else I must tell you. Our uncle Shobal is dead. He died at the hands of a Levite neighbor. Tirzah's heart jumped. Abishur, what about Abishur? Abishur as well, Jonathan too, only their father is dead, Ram answered, but they grieve for their father. Yes, Tirzah whispered, they must be grieving for their father. She too would mourn for him, for the uncle she had known as a child. He had been good to her in spite of his shortcomings. The night air felt chill, and Tirzah pulled her mantle closer. Oh, Uncle Shobal, why did you go against Yahweh? She mourned. The sound of a tiny cry like a kitten's came from inside the tent, reminding Tirzah of the new life, the little sister she had always wanted. In spite of her sadness for Abishur's family, a warm, soft feeling flowed over her as she listened to the baby's crying.